Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Immigration Unpacked. My name is Natalie Loader and I'm a partner in the immigration team. I'm stepping in for our usual host, Karma Hickman, today to talk to our colleague in our employment team, Roshan Dykes. Hi, Roshan. Thanks for joining us.
Hi there, thank you for having me on.
I wanted to talk to you about the Employment Rights Act 2025, and I know it's bringing in a whole raft of changes. It's really shaking up employment lawyers everywhere.
Yeah.
But today I want to talk about just one very specific bit in it, which is the changes to statutory sick pay. We couldn't possibly touch upon everything in the Employment Rights Act. So today we're just talking about statutory sick pay. So I wonder whether, Roshan, you could give us a brief overview of what the regime is now and how it's changing.
Yeah, so also just to mention at the outset, this is one of the changes that's being introduced by the Employment Rights Act 2025, which became law on the 18th of December last year. But the change is due to come in on the 6th of April, but will require commencement regulations just to confirm it will come in on that date. The current provisions for statutory sick pay are quite complex, but essentially the key requirements that are changing are that there must be a period of incapacity for work, which is 4 consecutive days, and statutory sick pay is only payable from the fourth day, and that employees must earn at least the weekly lower earnings limit, which is £125 per week. So both those key requirements are changing.
Mm,
So there will no longer be the waiting period of 3 days. So employees will be eligible for statutory sick pay from the first day of sickness absence. And the lower earnings limit, the weekly lower earnings limit, is being scrapped. So employees earning under that amount each week will be eligible for statutory sick pay.
okay. And is that, Roshan, from day one of employment? So you don't have to wait out any probationary period. It's if you're an employee and you're sick and it's even day one of your employment, then you would be entitled to the statutory sick pay under the new rules, which are coming in, we think, on the 6th of April.
Yes, employees are eligible from day one, but they must have actually commenced work. They must not have used up their 28-week limit to entitlement. In terms of employment status, so employee is defined under the provisions in relation to national insurance contributions. So in some instances, workers are also eligible, but it's quite complex in terms of working that out. So I won't go into that. But employers just need to be aware that in some cases, workers are also eligible. Now, other requirements are remaining the same, such as employees need to notify their employer of an absence and that they can self-certify for the first 7 days, but then employers can require some form of evidence after the 7 days.
I see. So that means employers must make sure that they've got policies and mechanisms in place whereby employees know how to report when they're going to be sick. And then whoever they're reporting to, those line managers are then passing on the necessary information to the accounts team, I suppose, to make sure
Exactly.
that they know that they're going to be on statutory sick pay for a period of time.
Yes, it's up to employers what processes they put in place for notification, and also in terms of evidence after the 7 days. Most employers require a fit note from a medical professional, but it's up to employers exactly what they want to see in terms of evidence. In terms of employers' policies, a lot of employers offer contractual sick pay or enhanced sick pay. So they just need to ensure that aligns with these changes. So there's no requirement for a waiting period, for example.
Right. Okay. But if they have a contractual sick pay policy and that's agreed in the contract they have with the employee or the worker,
Yeah.
then they don't need they can continue with that contractual sick pay, can't they? They don't have to move on
Yeah.
to SSP from day one.
No, I mean, the contractual sick pay will include the statutory sick pay element. So they are discharging their liability under statutory sick pay provisions within that contractual sick
Um,
pay. But they just need to be sure that when that contractual sick pay comes to an end, they then switch on to statutory sick pay.
I see. And could you give us a bit of background, Roshan, about why these changes have become necessary? Why are we doing this and why right now?
So I think it's been recognised for a while that employees and workers need more protection in terms of sickness absence and more assistance with uh, recovering to return to work. So of
Mm.
course we know that employees will avoid taking time off for sickness if they're not going to be paid for 3 days.
Right,
So
right.
it benefits employers in the long term as well because employees can avoid sickness becoming worse or exacerbating or spreading even among the workforce. So yeah, that's really why. And obviously this will have a big impact on employers who employ people on flexible hours or low
Mm.
hour contracts because there'll be an increased financial liability for them.
Okay. And what are the statutory sick pay rates? What are they now, and what do we think they're going to be from the next financial year?
So that's another key change. So at the
Mhm.
moment, employees are just paid the prescribed rate, which is £125 per week. So that will be changing to they will be paid the lower of 80% of their normal weekly earnings or the new prescribed rate, which will be £123.25. And sorry, the current prescribed rate is in fact £118.75. The
Not
£125 was the
125. Yeah.
lower, yeah, the lower
Yeah.
earnings limit. Uh,
Okay. All right.
so yeah, this is just really to avoid the scenario where people will be paid more than their normal weekly earnings.
Okay, all right. Well, that makes some sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think, given that these changes are coming into effect, my job is to think about how does that impact my clients. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about employers who have a license granted by the Home Office to sponsor workers in the UK for employment. So that could be as a skilled worker or it could be as a global business mobility worker, which is, the new name for the intra-company transfer. So employees who are sponsored have to meet a minimum salary requirement. So if they're going to go into statutory sick pay, that means their salary is going to dip below the minimum salary that's required for their job or for their visa. So employers have to have a way of reporting where a sponsored employee is going to be paid less than the amount that they're required to be paid to maintain their visa or to meet the conditions of their visa. So employees who are sponsors need to have mechanisms in place now, which means they're able to capture when someone goes on to statutory sick pay from that first day, make a report on the sponsor management system. So that's the portal that they have, which allows them to generate certificates of sponsorship and make reports to the Home Office. So they need to log into their sponsor management system and make a report that a sponsored employee is going on to statutory sick pay and therefore is going to have a lower salary rate. So they're going to be paid at the statutory sick pay rate. And then when they come back to work from their absence, their sickness absence, and their pay goes back to normal, then the sponsor is going to have to report that again. And it's really important now that sponsors are doing these reports. I mean, it's always been important because it's one of the duties as a sponsor, but it's more important now because the Home Office are checking with HMRC salary levels. So there's a data sharing agreement between HMRC and the Home Office. The Home Office are able to see where employees are being paid less than is stated on their certificate of sponsorship. And if sponsors are not reporting salaries dipping down because of statutory sick pay, then it's very likely the Home Office are going to pick up on it, and then they open themselves up to being audited by the Home Office and potentially having their license suspended or even revoked. And if the license is revoked, then they're not able to sponsor employees anymore. So it's really important that sponsors have these processes in place. I mean, there are various scenarios where a sponsored worker's salary can go below the minimum requirements, such as maternity leave, paternity leave, parental leave, sick leave is one of them, jury service is another. So that there are a variety of reasons why salaries can dip below the minimum amount. But I think that this change, because it's going to be from day one, it's going to mean increased reporting requirements for sponsors. So all sponsors need to make sure that they've got those proper mechanisms in place whereby they know that the employee knows how to report a first day of absence and that the line manager is then passing that on to whoever needs to know about it so they can make the report through the sponsor management system. So that's how I think it's going to impact sponsors in the UK.
And you mentioned paternity leave or pay. So another change that's coming in April is that paternity leave will be a day one right. So
Right.
although eligibility for paternity pay will still require 26 weeks continuous service, the right to take leave will be day one. So,
Right.
a lot of employees may be taking that unpaid. So again, that's going to impact their
Mm.
earnings and what employers need to report to the Home Office potentially.
Right. Yes. So paternity leave is one of those, it's one of the reasons why salary can dip below the minimum requirements. So yeah, definitely sponsors will need to have ways of being able to report that. Roshan, thanks so much. It's really interesting. Who knew statutory
You're
sick pay could
welcome.
be so interesting? But thanks so much for joining us and for giving us your insights. It's really appreciated.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.